Welcome to Stackhunters. I'm Bradley Stalder. Joining me, co-host Dan Williamson. Tonight we're going to be drafting a never too early $125 FFPC Bestball draft. Dan, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. It has been a nice, sunny, clear day here. Been enjoying the weather and just ready to get after a draft. I mean, I've been doing a ton of these things, mostly slow drafts, but I always like doing the live ones. Seems like people make a few more mistakes in them. So hopefully that won't be us, though.
We're looking to scoop up some major value in the FFPC streets. The draft is going to begin here in 4.5 minutes. We will get our settings squared away. Lots of fun on the Stackhunters site. So y'all can see the draft board. We are picking out of the 5-hole. For those who are unfamiliar with the FFPC Bestball streets, it is tight end premium, and we are entering into a 20-round draft. Dan and I are going to be co-drafting out of the 5-hole. There's some pretty big hitters in this draft as well. Some verified users with the check marks and the logos and the shields next to their names, Dan. We've got some pretty big players coming to swing in the never too early best ball streets. I mean, we did one of these back at the end of January. What do you think is, we did that draft coming out of the season, pretty fresh in our minds of how the players did. What do you think is like the biggest difference in drafting then versus drafting now about a couple weeks before the NFL draft?
I think there's a lot of differences. I mean, for one thing, back then there was no such thing as ADP. We were literally creating it as we went along. So everybody kind of had their own ideas about what to do where. Free agency is, basically, the main part of it is over with. So we know a lot of landing spots. We know a lot of players who've been cut loose. We've seen the combine, so all the rookies. We have more of an idea of kind of what they're all about. We've heard from teams as to, their smoke screens and maybe not smoke screens about who they might or might not be interested in drafting. So there's just a ton more information out there. We're just waiting for the last piece to fall into place, which is the NFL draft. And when that happens, of course, these never too earlys shut the door. They're done.
Yeah, then it is right on time, right after the draft. I remember last year, one of the big players that I had been drafting very heavily was rookie Anthony Richardson. This was pre-NFL draft, the never too early or the pre-NFL draft streets, whichever platform you were playing on. I was drafting a lot of Anthony Richardson, and then we saw him get, top 5 draft capital, drafted by the Indianapolis Colts, and his ADP skyrocketed immediately. It became an immediate top 12, top 10 quarterback in the draft streets. Is there a rookie player that you could envision once we get clarity on, once we know the landing spot, once we know the draft capital, what is one of the biggest risers that you could see in the rookie streets once we get some clarity?
Yeah, I think that's got to be Jalen Daniels because, it's basically this is A-Rich again, pretty much the exact same thing. He's going, in my opinion, far too late right now. Jaden Daniels is quarterback 18, and he's going in like the basically 11th round, yeah. And I think he's gonna rise up because he's got the same skill set as A-Rich. I mean, I think the only thing that might be holding people back on him is the fact that A-Rich did get hurt last year, and right. So maybe that's giving people a little bit of a pause. But I think Daniels is he's a smash pick at ADP.
Yeah, he's definitely one that has risen not only in our hearts and in our love for him, but also he has now eclipsed in many of the mock drafts quarterback Drake May as the projected number 2 overall quarterback. Most now mocking Jane Daniels to Washington, and then Drake May getting bumped to either number 3 or falling a little bit. Dan, is that the right move from an NFL perspective? You think that the NFL should be taking Jaden Daniels over Drake May?
I think every front office drafting that high has to take exactly the quarterback that they think has the best chance to succeed in their organization, because you know what, it's probably going to cost them their jobs if it doesn't work out. So, I think you can make the case for any of the three. Whether you're talking about McCarthy or Daniels and we're almost up here.
We are.
Or Drake May. So, each front office has to take their pick. Okay, we are up, and I like number 1 in our queue better than number 2, but I'm willing to be talked off of that. Do you have anybody else that's not in the queue?
I don't have a lot of number 1, so I'm willing to take some shares of him. Dan, you go right ahead, and I'm in favor of selecting Bijan Robinson here at 5. I think there is a clear top 4, and then Bijan the next tier. I know there's a lot of people who are in favor of moving Bijan to like 4 or 3, but I think at 5 is the right spot for Bijan at this point in the offseason. I think a little bit ahead of Jamar Chase. Justin Jefferson has his questions. Amon-Ra can't access the ceilings that Justin Jefferson or Chase or Hill or Lamb do. So, taking a shot on what Bijan Robinson could be is a very interesting move, and I think one that we can continue to draft confidently as we go through the rest of the season. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and this is a tournament too, so this allows us some opportunities for some interesting builds here, which is one of the things I like about taking Bijan kind of in this middle area. And the other thing is, I think Bijan is one of the few running backs that has RB1 overall upside.
Yes.
And that is something that you can't take lightly. I mean, all these wide receivers are very safe and very good picks, but if Bijan does happen to hit that RB1 overall, that's probably going to end up being the best pick of the first round.
It's true. And with the wide receivers not being as heavily, the FFPC streets bump up the tight ends, and you're only starting 2 of the wide receivers. I believe this is just a start 2 wide receiver format. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but
yeah. So you start 2 wide receivers, and you also have 2 flex. So
yeah. So there is a little bit more balance when it comes to drafting wide receivers versus running backs in this type of format, and tight ends. There's a lot more ways to build a little creatively in the FFPC streets. Whereas if you are on the Underdog platform or other sites where you have to start 3 wide receivers, you see wide receiver just get pumped up so early and often. So that's where you're going to see some of the discrepancies in ADP in the FFPC streets versus other platforms.
Right, exactly. Yep. And one of the things that we can do here is there are some interesting players in the NFC South, that can be added
Yes.
to Bijan. And the hope is kind of that usually the divisional games come towards the end of the season, so always a good idea to build within division whenever you can. So that's going to be something we keep our eye on as we go along here.
Especially since we don't know week 17 correlation. The best bets are those interdivisional matchups to be correlated, as we don't know what the schedule is, but if we're making bets, the best bets are those interdivisional games, and that could separate you from the competition here in this $125 entry best ball tournament. We started with Bijan Robinson. We saw a double tight end tap here, Dan, at the end of the first round, beginning of the second round. That's not normal, even for the FFPC, right?
Well, it's
That
there are a lot of
hurt.
drafts where people do try it. Occasionally, it's successful. I typically try to shy away from my first 2 picks being tight ends, but I don't mind taking 2 earlier tight ends. So, like within 5 rounds, having a couple tight ends, I don't think that's a real problem. First 2 picks, it just kind of puts you behind at the other positions a little bit more, and I always feel like I'm scrambling to catch up. All right. I have my recommendation in the queue.
Chips in, baby. Come on, Dan. Chips in for Atlanta.
There we go. All right. So we're going to add Drake London. So immediately we've got a little bit of a stack going here. Always a nice thing to do. And let's see. So I also noticed we have Toyo started out with Gibbs and Taylor. So he's got the double elite running backs going. Like that. He looks right now he's the only one with 2 running backs, and then there's only one team with 2 wide receivers so far either, which is number 12, who has Puka and Garrett Wilson.
Yes, the Puka Garrett Wilson, going to be a very common double tap at the end of the first round. What we found was that in many of the advancing best ball teams from last year, you saw a lot of Amon-Ra, CeeDee Lamb double taps. It's going to be interesting to see what wide receivers / running backs, are going to get double tapped. We saw AJ Brown, Saquon Barkley for Philly also get, tapped together round 1, round 2, and we can see a lot of Philly stacks. We had Darren Armani on, what was it, a month ago or so, to talk about the possibility of Philadelphia stacks, and he said they're not going to be as rare as before. They're going to be a lot more common given the market's relaxation on A.J. Brown, on Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert. Dan, with Saquon Barkley now being a Philadelphia Eagle and a second-round pick, how are teams going to get unique if they also want to be targeting a lot of these Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to want to, you can do the A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley. It's going to happen a lot. I mean, we're doing the Bijan Drake London, which is also probably going to happen a lot. But, there's plenty of ways to differentiate later on in your drafts. So I don't worry too much about, having 2 or 3 players stacked together that a lot of other people have, because all I need to do is be different in a better way than they are.
Yeah, so far we've seen 4 tight ends go off the board. Laporta, McBride, now a 5th one, Dalton Kincaid, rising up. And he was a mid-round 4 pick going into this draft now with the news Stefon Diggs being traded to the Houston Texans. We've seen Kincaid rise up the boards and Nico Collins fall down the boards, but Collins is not in our queue. And I don't mind either of those players that we have in the queue here, Dan. We can go with the running back. I think there will be some wide receivers we like in round 4.
Yeah, I'm fine with either one. So if you like the running back, let's do it.
All right, cool beans.
And there we go.
Sweet. So we picked Rachaad White here in round 3. He was a big-time winner for those in the best ball streets who drafted him in 0 RB builds. He was a table pounder for Matt Kelly, a.k.a. Fantasy Mansion, our boss here at Player Profiler. I will take the L on Rachaad White from last year. And you know what? To be fair, Dan, he was bad. He still was bad at objectively efficient football. However, he did not lose his job, and he got plenty of opportunity. Okay, take the L.
And he's likely to, once again this year, be the back on passing downs. I mean, I think that's I think it's likely that Tampa Bay invests a little bit earlier in running back. I'm not probably day 2, could be, like round 4 or something like that on day 3. So I think he is going to get some competition in there, but I think they're probably looking more for a guy who's more of a, a 2-down pounder that can do the things well that Rachaad White kind of struggles at. So I don't see them bringing in competition to do, the pass catching, which he already does very well as it is.
Yeah, and in a full PPR settings like the FFPC, Rachaad White getting all of the pass catching work out of the backfield with the return of Baker Mayfield, it's looking pretty good. So, we've got Bijan, Drake London, and Rachaad White starting out. We see a 0 wide receiver, 0 running back start for team number 11, double tight end, tapping with Josh Allen at the 311. We've seen 2 quarterbacks go off the board, Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen.
He's going to try to beat us at the onesie positions, which he can do, but it's tough. Team 12 is going full 0 RB. And the Stefon Diggs pick, I think, is definitely an interesting one and one to talk about because there's a wide range of opinions on Diggs.
Yes.
So my personal take on it is, and especially with what we see that they did with this contract, they're paying him an extra $3.5 million this year, and then letting him get out of his contract, the remaining year. So this is now the last year of his contract. He will be a free agent. They have no incentive to not just give him the ball over and over and over again, because you know what? They also have to know, after watching Diggs exit Minnesota and exit Buffalo, that if they don't give him an alpha share of targets, when I say alpha share, I'm talking like about 160 targets, he's going to wreck that team chemistry.
Yes. Jeez, oh, Pete. Yes. That's he has not been full diva, but if there has been a player who's primed to fall into the diva pathway, it's Stefon Diggs.
Well, right? He's been quiet diva is what I would call him. I think that he's very much behind the scenes was telling Buffalo, I want out, and if I have to make a scene publicly, I will. But I think Diggs has kind of learned that it's better to be the quiet behind the scenes diva rather than the out in front of the press diva.
Well, and we just got a report from where is it? I'm pulling up the news. There was a report that I believe Sleeper put out that Chris Sims reported that the only team that was not allowed to trade for Stefon Diggs was the Kansas City Chiefs. And in fact, the Bills had to they had to put the kibosh on a possible trade of Stefon Diggs to the Kansas City Chiefs, which tells me 2 things. One, I mean, the Bills were willing to get rid of him for almost anything, but except the Chiefs. There's still a little bit of bad blood there. And 2 is the Chiefs are still in the wide receiver business. They are still going to consider very strongly, I think, a wide receiver in the draft coming up here in 3 weeks. With the Rashee Rice stuff aside, I think that the Chiefs are very in on taking a wide receiver in at least day 2, if not finding a way to get, one of the like AD Mitchell or something like that at Brian Thomas.
Trade up for Brock Bowers. Come on.
the Travis Kelce replacement. Jeez, oh, Pete.
All right, we are up. I have one player in the queue right now, which is a fairly obvious one. We could also try to push him around the corner and take somebody else here if there's somebody else that you like.
I think we can push him around the corner.
Okay, who would you like to take then?
Let's consider.
I mean, I would consider. I just put another guy in the queue. See what you think about that.
I'm refreshing.
Okay.
So it didn't show in the queue when you said so.
All right. It's a quarterback.
Yeah, I am okay with the quarterback there.
Okay. All right. Let's
Cool.
let's do that.
I love it. Quarterback 3 off the board. That's fine. Mahomes is usually going as quarterback 4, but Mahomes will give us consistently more points, and we expect that the next year is going to be better for his fantasy value with the addition of Hollywood. And, Rashee Rice, we don't expect to miss some time. We were already talking up the Chiefs addressing. My bad. I'm sorry, Dan. I thought he would make it.
Yeah, but the thing is, you know what? I'm okay with him not making it. There are other ways to attack the position, so not a big deal.
Yeah, it was worth a shot. It was worth a shot. I mean,
yeah. What we saw was we just saw Pitts go off the board at 411. We were kind of hoping he might wrap back around to 504 or 505 for us. So.
Yeah, we were hoping.
Yes, we were.
Yeah, I think the player number 1 in the queue, we can go there. That's about that would be a great value, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a solid value. I also like the number 2 player. He may not come across as necessarily a value ADP wise, but I think
he gives spike weeks.
Yes, exactly.
He gives spike weeks. When he hits hard.
Right. So I think those. I'm hoping one of the first 2 will make it to us. If neither one does, then we're definitely going to be settling a little bit for.
I mean, we could take this is a tournament, and we would get some ADP value. I think is someone.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind even taking some ADP value.
All right, and there went Kittle.
They went with Kittle. Wow.
Yep.
This is very, very heavy. We've seen in the first 4.5 rounds, 2 teams double tap on tight end.
The enthusiasm is there for the tight end position. There's no doubt about it. All right, so now we just got to see who is left for us. Out of the 4 in our queue, which do you like best?
None of our queue got sniped there. That's a good feeling, Dan.
Yes, it is.
So we can go with number 1. I'm fine with that, but there's also ADP value to be had with number 4. So it just depends on what you want to do, Dan. I'm okay with either.
Well, do you think Diggs is washed or not? Because that's basically the key.
I think Diggs is washed. His PFF receiving grade was the second worst among all wide receivers with at least 60 targets in the second half of the season.
All right. Well, number 4 is a boom bust player, which we do like anyway. And if we think Diggs is washed, then I think that's the obvious choice.
Okay. Well, let's go with number 4.
Done. Tank Dell, welcome to the team.
Let's go, Tank. Oh, baby, let's go. Tank Dell last year was the number 30 overall player in terms of best ball value rating. And, Diggs was 38. Dell was 30. Nico Collins was 12. So something's got to give.
Right. Some of Nico Collins came because Dell was not there for part of the season. So, Nico I think is one who's probably going to get hurt more by Diggs than Dell.
Yes.
I could be wrong on that, but that's kind of how I feel right now anyway.
There is a lot of projecting of Diggs playing out of the slot, and it kind of makes sense. In terms of where he is in his career and where he can win and what kind of route running. And also, Tank Dell was not only running routes on the outside, but he was also being thrown to on the outside, and he was winning on the outside despite his size. So I think that Tank Dell is a player that we're going to get dynamic spike weeks from him. He was at something like a 15-20% top 5 rate last year. You know, there were some games where Nico missed and Tank crushed. They were pretty evenly split when it came to target share, target rate. But, you know, typically Tank Dell was getting 3rd round, maybe late 4th, early 4th round ADP, and we get him here at the 5-5.
Yep, without a doubt. Nice to see him kind of fall into our laps a little bit. And I've kind of loaded up with the queue with some guys who, hopefully, some of them will, at least one of them will be there. We'll find out. All right. Keenan Allen was the lone holdover from who had been in our queue before. We had Devonta Smith, T. Higgins, and Keenan Allen rounded out the queue with Tank Dell, and they went in 3 of the next 4 picks, so no surprise there. C.J. Stroud going to Toyo. Actually, that's not, ADP-wise, Stroud's not bad there. I thought he might rise up a little bit more than that, but that's a decent value.
Yeah, Stroud, that's, he's one of the bigger risers from this situation. Diggs, obviously, expected to drop a little bit. Collins, Tank Dell, as we saw here. Dalton Schultz, also expected to drop a little bit in this situation. Josh Allen, dropping a little bit. But, because Josh Allen was a 1-2 turn, or a 2-3 turn guy, and now he is at the end of the 3rd round in this draft, almost a full round dropping.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, I mean, Diggs didn't really do him all that much good the entire last half of last year, and and Allen was still fine. So, that's a nice value for anybody who can scoop him up late.
Yeah, you have to like what Josh Allen still can do. Last year, Allen was the number 9 player in terms of best ball value rating. Number nine. I think this gives me even more reason to be drafting a lot of Josh Allen. Like, obviously, we went with Mahomes here in this draft, but I think it makes me feel a lot more comfortable about the Josh Allen I was selecting earlier and kind of avoiding Steph Diggs. As funny as it sounds, taking a lot of naked Josh Allen. Shout out Haley Steinfeld.
Do we have to talk about naked Josh Allen? I'm getting uncomfortable here.
Well, we've got we're up here in a few picks. Make sure you guys, if you like the content and you found this helpful so far, smash the subscribe button on YouTube. Follow Dan on the X Machine at Overhyped Sleeper. You can follow me, Bradley Stalder, on the X Machine at Djibouti Puns. And Dan has been crushing it with me lately on the Stackhunters podcast. You can find him also contributing in a lot of the Dynasty circles. And of course, I run the news desk for Player Profiler. So we're bringing you a $125 FFPC never too early best ball draft. And we are on the clock.
Yes, we are.
I prefer player 1 significantly over player 2.
Okay, and that works with Tank Dell because same division, so there's some potential correlation in the money rounds here.
Love the correlation in the money rounds.
Yep. If the player remaining in our queue makes it back to us, which he did not, he only made it to the next pick.
Yeah, Hollywood at the 6'9". Jeez, oh Pete, that is a meteoric rise. Dan.
Yeah, I mean, wide receiver 34, I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. I liked him a lot better when you could catch him in the 7th round, and he was more around wide receiver 40.
That's fair. Wide receiver 40 plus even. And then you're competing with other Marquise Brown drafters in this tournament that were taking him like round 13, round 11, round 12, whatever, and who were leaving him for dead. And now he's a 6th-round pick. Like, it's just hard to click a type of player who's meteorically rise so far in this tournament.
Right, exactly. And, as you know, Bradley, I'm a little bit less concerned about any one particular player. I mean, you don't want to catch too many risers or you're going to be in trouble. Yep. But there are so many ways to differentiate that, if a player makes sense for your team, you probably shouldn't worry as much, in my opinion anyway. I know Bradley may differ on that, but in my opinion, I don't worry about it so much because if he makes sense for my team, my build, I think that outweighs whatever I might be giving up on ADP for that one player.
Yeah, if it's a singular player, perhaps not as bad, but you don't want to be I'm riding the ADP riser train for all of your picks either. I'm so minus EV is crazy,
Right, exactly.
Very good. So there's a couple players that I'll throw into the queue as well. I like the one that you have. I've also been drafting a lot of him and a lot of him and him. So we can throw those in the queue. And boom, David Montgomery already taken RB19.
All right. Well, we have 3 players in our queue, and we have 3 picks to go. So I think we're going to get one of our players, if I'm doing my math right.
I hope so. It checks out, Dan. It checks out.
Okay, good. I mean, you're the math whiz. You're the teacher, so.
No longer. I've been banished from the classroom. Now I do observations and call parents and navigate situations. It's a whole ordeal. But wow, 3 of those players go off, and we're left standing with. Do you like him, or do you like the guy who's ADP value right now?
I think we go with the guy who's ADP value right now.
Okay.
I do like him. Maybe even a little bit more.
Okay.
All right, James Conner, welcome to the team. Running back 22. He's always been a guy who's provided good spike weeks, so that's what we're looking for. Whereas with Conner, I think he's probably going to get some help in the backfield. I'm going to call it help rather than competition, though it'll be a little bit of both. But Arizona, from what I've heard, really, really does like Conner a lot, and they trust him. They look at him as a team leader, and so those are the kind of things I really like. And and Billy is a big fan of Ridley. Let's see, he said. Billy says, "Oh my God, Ridley really gross. Why not stack with Brown?" Well, that's what we're hoping to do, but Brown, I guess, with the Rashee Rice, that's pushing Brown up, and I wasn't properly accounting for that. So
Ridley doesn't make sense for your build unless you're trying to lose. Man, oh man, Billy is anti Calvin Ridley, and I tried to bring him along for the ride, and Billy was not a fan. He was anti-Ridley, and I think at this price point, though, you can't ignore what Ridley did last year. And wide receiver 33 right now, Calvin Ridley was the 45th best player last year in terms of best ball value rating. So to get him at pick 68, I think that's actually a good value, frankly.
And they basically had him running Gabe Davis routes most of last year too. So
the Gabe Davis routes.
So if
now Ridley's going to be in the Jamar Chase role, baby. Let's go. Did you hear Brian Callahan? Let's go. Unleash the Kraken.
I love these in the X player role, because it's never exactly like that. But
no, not at all. Not at all.
But
we
still.
can laugh about it. But
Yep.
man, that's very funny.
Yeah,
Let's see.
Deontay Johnson just went. I was about to put him in the queue as being somebody who'd fit in well with our NFC South stackage.
Yeah, we selected Ridley because of obviously his value, but also the correlation with Tank Dell there.
Correct.
So that doesn't make sense for the build. Billy is I love Billy. He is not afraid to speak his mind. He's one of the sharpest in the industry, and much love to Billy Muzio because yeah. Oh my gosh, Billy, we need to talk. I need you on a podcast because this is not going to be true. This is not going to be true. I don't think you understand. This is Brian Callahan. This is not Mike Vrabel. This is Tazi Spears and Tony Pollard. This is not Derrick Henry. This is not 28 pass attempts per game or 30 attempts per game. This is 37 attempts per game with the number one air yards per attempt quarterback in the NFL from last year. That is Will Levis. He may not be great, but at least we're going to have a lot of fun, Dan.
Yep, exactly. And, in a minute, we're just going to have Billy just, put on his headphones and get up in front of a microphone and defend his stance. But
Billy's like, get me on, guys. Get me on. Bring me on. Get him on a retirement. No, Billy is not on retirement. He is on hiatus. There's some exciting announcements that are coming up that I won't say anything more about because Billy, it's his space. It's his spot to make announcements. He's been working tirelessly, but he has hinted on things on the X machine, so I don't feel too bad saying so. Oh, but this is why we need him on. He's on pain meds. This is going to be so much entertainment. Let's go, baby. Come on, Billy. Join on in.
Oh, that's awesome.
You just say the word and I'll send you the StreamYard.
There we go.
This is great.
All right, we are up. So I kind of like players number 2 and 3. Number 1 fits in some ways, but I'm not sure that we want to attack that position right here.
I love number 1. I will always be a number 1 truther, and yeah.
But we can do that if you'd like, because I think.
Or number 3. I'm sorry, a number 3 truther. I'm a
number 3. Okay.
My bad. He's number 1 in my heart is number 3. So let's go.
All right, let's take him.
All of the Packers behind me. We've got to go Christian Watson, baby. Christian Watson.
Definitely. Man, if he has those hamstring problems solved, that's going to be a really nice pick.
Well, Dan,
but wait, I have to see what...
They fired all of the strength and conditioning coaches for Green Bay. You heard about this, right?
Yes, I did, and I was very happy about it. I was calling for that mid-season. I was going, they just need to fire the whole lot of them. So yes, they did. So I'm happy.
I like the Raheem Mostert pick that went right before us. That makes me kind of sad.
Yeah, I thought about putting him in the queue, but again, I think
he's just straight printing money.
Yeah, structurally, I think a wide receiver made a lot of sense for us there, but yeah, I mean, sometimes you can't ignore the value.
For those who don't know, Billy Muzio is a director of operations here at Player Profiler. He and I started our content time together way back in 2020 during the pandemic. But he is not just a fantasy football wizard and a rankings expert, the number 1 ranker back just a couple years ago from the Fantasy Pros contest. But Billy also flies planes. Billy also owns his own businesses. Billy also knows law. What can't Billy Muzio do? He can't walk right now because of, his knee, but
man, Bradley making fun of the crippled people. Terrible.
Did you see the feet pics he shared on the X Machine, Dan?
Oh my God, no! I try not to look.
Nevertheless, we're having a lot of fun here on the Stackhunters podcast. Dan Williamson at Overhyped Sleeper, myself, Bradley Stalder at Djibouti Puns. Make sure you follow us on the X Machine, but also smash the subscribe button on YouTube. Click the follow button on the Roto Underworld Twitter account. We're going to continue to bring you great best ball content just about every week. Next Thursday, though, I will not be here, Dan. There's important family matters I need to attend to.
Yes.
So, Dan...
It's going to be me. I will be coming to you, I believe, live from Texas. I mean, if I come to you at all, it will be from Texas. If I don't come to you, it'll be Theo, because that means I couldn't get reception out where I was at. But one way or the other. And we're going to have Andrew Cooper on. So I'm working with Andrew to find a time to record. And, it's going to be a lot of fun. So I always love chopping up with Koopa Fiasco.
Yeah, Coop and I, we had a great time at the FSGA. I don't know if we barely remember, what happened in Cleveland last year at the FSGA, but it was a lot of fun from what I remember. Maybe we had a good time. Coop was great. Shout out to him. Tight end guru. For those who are not familiar with Andrew Cooper, there's always the nice little moniker of tight end whisperer and shout out to Dan, because he definitely has a skill set. But that's where minds can meld over these types of things. And Dan and Andrew are definitely tight end experts in this space.
Yep, definitely. Coop and I definitely vibe on the tight ends. He and I see it very similarly. And anytime he sees something different than me, I want to know about it. And typically the reverse is true. He's interested in finding out if I'm not high on a guy that he is. So, all right. And we have two guys in our queue right now. One of them makes more sense structurally than the other. The other one makes more sense as far as stacking.
Yeah, I think, let's push the stack. Maybe that's risking it again, but
which one? Because they're both a stack. So
yeah, I think we keep the tight end and push the quarterback.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I think we'll probably lose the quarterback, but I think the tight end is the right position to address here. With Mahomes, I don't think quarterback is nearly as critical.
Yes.
So.
Plus, I think there's going to be some other, there's other quarterback considerations that may go ahead of him as well.
Right.
So we'll see what happens, frankly.
Yeah, I think there's a chance something comes back to us there, but also, when I've got Mahomes, I kind of relax on quarterback. If we don't get another quarterback till the 15th or 16th round, I just really don't care. No, we'll be fine.
No, and then I'll add, if we get sniped, I'll add another player that I really like in terms of addressing the position and upside that we've seen from the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now the tight end we took, Schultz, he does not have a lot of spike weeks. So
he benefits from injuries, which Collins and Dell did suffer. And right. Diggs is, he's been able to stay healthy, but he's also 30 years old and has a history of soft tissue issues.
Right, exactly. So, and the thing is Schultz just kind of gives us that safe floor at tight end, which is fine. We can go prospecting for upside a little bit later, but getting that floor plus, adding to the stack there with Dell and the general AFC South stack that we had going, I think makes a lot of sense too. So, yeah, it's, I think a decent pick, a pick we probably needed to make more than wanted to make.
Yeah, that's fair. There were, we took some risks on not taking tight end, but there are two teams so far that have not selected a tight end. at this point.
Yeah, and that was the other reason why I was interested in the tight end is because Toyo or Metzko Let's, either one of them might have been tempted to take our guy. So
yeah, so far so good. Looking at Cole Kmet going off there, he was a player I threw in the queue and I thought would be a nice little spike week king.
Yep, wouldn't have minded him.
He's been a top 7 tight end each of the last 2 years, very quietly.
Yes, yep, definitely. And the only thing that worries me is that we've got Shane Waldron there, and Waldron was responsible for the 3 tight end fiasco in Seattle last year. So I don't like the fact that they brought in Gerald Everett. Which
so it's Cole Kmet, Robert Tonyan, and Gerald Everett.
So there definitely is a possibility of a real mess there, where none of them are getting enough targets to be of significant value. That was a decent value on Zach Moss there. I see.
10th round Zach Moss. Sheesh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Zach Moss usually about running back 34, 36, goes off here at running back 36. So tail end of some good value.
Yes, definitely.
Now, we've got a question in the chat, Dan, as we're getting ready. Famous J is asking, what is your typical roster build as far as number of players per position in a best ball format? It just depends. It depends on a lot of things, Dan. And in this FFPC tournament, you can't be ignoring tight ends sometimes in the way that you do in the underdog streets.
Right, exactly. And, a typical build for me is going to be probably 3 quarterbacks, 6 running backs, 8 wide receivers, 3 tight ends. I will add or subtract 1 from those positions, but usually not more than that. I mean, occasionally I've done a 4 or 5 running back build and then just really hammer on receivers if I get four running backs really, really early. But overall, I think you want to have a couple more wide receivers than you do running backs, unless you've pushed running back late, in which case you want to go the opposite way. All right, so I like probably our top 2 the most.
Yeah, let's just tap the stack. I'm okay with that, Dan.
All right, sounds good. Normally, Cousins and Mahomes are not quarterbacks that I'm going to stack together because they're too similar in a lot of ways. I mean, neither one of them really uses their legs very much. But on the other hand, both of them are very prolific, and they're gonna get a lot of passing points. So I don't mind that at all.
Lots of passing points, and we like the offenses that they're tied to. So good offenses. Yes. Kirk Cousins should be just fine coming into the 2024 season. He's got the weapons, and we've got his 2 top weapons. When Raheem Morris was asked who is going to be the big players, the players on offense that you're going to focus on, he immediately said Drake London, Bijan Robinson, and that's who we went with in the first 2 rounds.
Yep, exactly. All right. So, added a few guys to the queue. If number 1 in our queue comes back around to us.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
We're going to scroll down just a little bit. Give the people space.
I'm going to add 1 more too. Because it's getting late enough that I don't hate that one.
I'm fine with number 4. I'm not a big fan of number 3.
Okay. Yeah, we should take out number 3 because we already addressed that position adequately. I think. And Hawkinson went at the end of the 10th round. That's a nice little value there. I mean, at tight end 16, even if he starts out on the pup list, that's if he's helping you the last 5-6 weeks of the season, that might be enough right there.
It may pay off, frankly. And the Vikings, I think, I don't think they'll go to 0. This Vikings team is definitely this Vikings team is one that I don't think is going to go away and is going to remain competitive throughout the season. They were in a lot of the games that they lost Cousins, they lost Hawkinson, they lost Addison for a game, they lost Jefferson for some time, and they were still pretty competitive. So,
yeah, definitely. I think the running back is a clear value here.
Clear. Smash.
All right. Blake Corum. Who knows where he'll end up, but I think he's probably going to be a day 2 pick, and if he is, he's probably going to be worthwhile here. Yeah,
Blake Corum is a player I think is going to land on a really nice spot right now. Corum going at about running back 40 and now off the board here at 42. So we were able to push him a little bit and have him come back to us. Back in 2022, Corum was the number 1 running back in terms of PFF rushing grade. And then, he tears the ACL, I believe, works his way back, does okay. And that's why he didn't declare for the NFL draft, according to most. It would have been a redshirt year anyways for Corum, most likely in the NFL. So he comes back, wins the national championship with University of Michigan, and now is poised to be drafted as a day 2 pick. But also his value is questioned by some that may give Jim Harbaugh the opportunity to take him in LA.
Yeah, if that happens, I mean, I think, the narratives write themselves there for sure. And one thing I want to point out, Team 2, I like the way that they approach quarterback. I mean, waiting until round 11 and then grabbing Jaden Daniels for the first quarterback is going to turn out just fine, I think, for him. I mean, he's going to be able to add to Daniels. I mean, he's probably going to need to add a couple more quarterbacks in the next 3 rounds. But, Jaden Daniels gives you a ton of upside at quarterback 18. And being the last guy to pick his quarterback 1, he was able to load up on other positions. And he's also going, he's only got 1 tight end. So he's basically just been loading up on wide receiver and running back, which is a strategy that's pretty solid. So, like that.
It is a pretty solid strategy. And, Jaden Daniels, Dan, you are a big fan of Jaden Daniels. You've written about him in articles on Player Profiler. We've talked about him at length on other podcasts. Jaden Daniels now the favorite to go number 2 to the Washington Commanders in the draft, just a couple weeks away. Jaden Daniels now going off as the quarterback 18. There's a pretty clear pathway for him to outproduce that significantly. I mean, we look at what Anthony Richardson was able to do last year. He was in 4 games, 2 of which he left early. Anthony Richardson, the quarterback 4, quarterback 5 in best ball value rating, like a top 5 quarterback, despite having games that he missed. Now, small sample size, sure, but he showed exactly what we wanted to see right out of the gate. And I think that Jaden Daniels has that opportunity. If he lands in Washington, you have McLaurin, you have Jahan Dotson, you probably have some other weapons, Bijan Robinson to rush a little bit, keep defenses honest. You've got Austin Eckler as another pass catching weapon. We're just not sure about tight end, and that's okay.
Correct. Yes, definitely. All right. I think the top 3 interest me the most in our queue.
Oh.
and apparently not Bradley.
No. I mean, sure.
Yeah, I mean,
This is like the grossest pick I think we're gonna have to make here, Dan.
yeah, it probably is, but and I don't mind if we don't want to take the top two. I don't mind pushing down even further at that position. Number 3 makes sense with who we have at with one of the players that we have. It gives us a little bit of a stack. But if one of the bottom two you prefer, I'm fine with them. I think they might come back to us. So
I think they'll come back to us. Let's go with number 2.
All right.
The tight end, number 2.
I like it.
Hunter Henry. I was drafting a lot of Hunter Henry last year, and he ended up spiking at opportune times. This is exactly what we want to see from tight ends. We expect an improvement at quarterback. I don't believe the smokescreen that the Patriots are okay with Jacoby Brissett as their starting quarterback for 2024. I do think that it signals that they're okay with trading down.
Yep.
The rumblings that, we're okay with Jacoby Brissett, blah, blah, blah. But the move is to trade down and then take a Bo Nix, take, a Michael Penix, take one of those guys that are like a tier 3 type of quarterback, and then just see what you have. And if you lose, you get a top pick next year, try it again. But you get more assets in a trade down. And the problem with the Patriots is they do not have a lot of talent on their team. So I think that's the move, frankly, is to do that.
Right. Yes. Totally agree.
We're getting a lot of quarterback advice in the chat. Randall says snag Will Levis. Tyler says don't take Sam Darnold. LOL.
Oh my. All right. I got 3 in the queue. Anybody else you want to add?
I think we can take number 1 at this spot. That's fine.
Okay. I mean, I'm fine with 1 or 2. Either one of them is fine with me. So if you have a preference between them,
there's been a lot of love for number 2 from the coaching staff. And if there's a player to take the next step, maybe number 2 is the way to go.
Let's do it. Let's take number 2.
Let's go Dontavion Wicks, baby.
Yeah,
I don't have a lot of Wicks, so I'm happy with this selection.
I like it too. He was somebody that I had on the back end of my rosters in Dynasty and redraft and everything last year, and he definitely, for the price that I paid, was well worth it. So this is a little bit more expensive now, 13th round versus 19th or 20th round, but still, at the 13th round, if I think one of Watson or Wicks is bound to pay off.
Okay, Dan, I'm here to ride the Dontavion Wicks hype train and just just fuel it. Wicks had a higher best ball value rating last year than Darren Waller, Dalton Kincaid, Khalil Shakir, Josh Downs, Jameson Williams, Jahan Dotson, Wan'Dale Robinson, Zay Jones. Who are some others, some big names? Higher than Matthew Stafford, higher than Russell Wilson.
Totally believe it. Yeah, because Wicks, I mean, he gives you the spike weeks, and he came from late in the draft too, which really helps a lot.
He was player 132. So he's an end of round 11 payoff value.
Okay.
Based on the data that we got from last year.
There we go. And if he does better,
beautiful.
Wheels up.
Wheels up, baby, for Dontavion Wicks, who Coach LaFleur can't stop gushing about. It's kind of gross how much he loves Dontavion Wicks, because Jaden Reed is also very good, and Christian Watson, when he's healthy, is also very good. So Dontavion Wicks, bat in round 13, this makes a lot of sense. Wicks finished just behind Tazi Spears and Josh Reynolds last year in best ball value rating. So, and what they were able to contribute sounds good to me. Dontavion Wicks.
Love it. Wicks 5 right here. Get in line. Everybody on board the Wicks hype train. All right.
Throw a couple other players in the queue.
Yes.
Just for
definitely.
kicks. Oh, the kids with the pumped up kicks. Okay, there we go. I haven't been really focusing on our build necessarily, like structural wise. Probably should focus on.
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on that. I think we're in pretty good shape structurally. We have 4 running backs. We have 5 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, and 2 quarterbacks. So structurally, I feel like we're free to do kind of wherever the value is where we can go.
I think so. We've got a few options here that we've thrown into the queue. I see a couple wide receivers you've thrown in. I've thrown in a tight end, some wide receivers as well. When our queue is getting slurped up.
I guess it is.
Yeah, Jahan Dotson, Tyler Algier, Roman Wilson were all queued up for us, and none of them came back.
Yep. Yeah. I probably like 3 or 4 right now the best. Yep. Now it's 2 or 3.
Two or three. Let's go with 3.
All right.
Okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. I'm back on the Chig train, baby. I was out last year. I spent so much time anti-Chig propaganda. I was the anti-Chigite, the Chigozim, Okonkwo. Anti-hype train was Bradley Stalder at Djibouti Puns on the X Machine. And instead, what did he do? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing for you. That's right. That's right. Chig Okonkwo does nothing, but I'm back in, baby. I'm back in for 2024. Chig train all the way. And it fits with, it fits with what we want to do structurally.
I'm not sure I'm quite that in on Chig, but I will say I joined you being out on him. It was one of the few places where Coop and I were differing. He was a little bit more bullish on Chig. I just wasn't seeing the case quite as much. Though once DeAndre Hopkins joined the team, that certainly that cooled Coop on him a little bit too. So. I think we ended up in pretty close to the same place on him.
Yeah, his ADP continued to plummet, and I was like, good. I didn't get a lot of shares until his ADP plummeted probably 5 rounds with the DeAndre Hopkins signing. And I was like, I'll get a little exposure, sure.
Yep, definitely. All right.
Let's see. I mean, we could have gone with Josh Palmer as the wide receiver 1 in LA, but but is that really who we want? No.
Yeah, something tells me that may not be the case too far into the future. I'll give him another 3.5 weeks as a wide receiver 1.
3.5 weeks. There we go. Let's see. Are there any other Oh, I want to throw this guy in the queue for later. We don't need to take him right away. Yeah, Will Levis goes off. The Jaden Daniels, Deshaun Watson, Will Levis.
Yep. All right. I think it's got to be number 1, huh?
I have no opposition to number 1. That could be really fun.
Totally.
Darnell Mooney.
And a very nice wide receiver 69.
Very, very nice.
So nice.
Let's see here. So some of us shouldn't forget that Darnell Mooney, way back, like we got to throw back a little bit, way back in 2021, over 1,000 receiving yards and 1,400 air yards. But his rookie year in 2020, 61 receptions, 630 receiving yards. And even in 2022, he only played 12 games, 500 receiving yards, 700 air yards, 12 games. And that was on a hapless Bears team. The last however many years for the Bears have been pretty hapless. They have lacked hap, if you would like to say.
The last time they had hap, I think Jim McMahon was quarterback.
I wasn't alive back then. God.
Sorry, showing my age again.
Oh, this is great. This is great, Jim McMahon.
But Mooney is a nice pick though because of the fact also he plays on the outside. We already have the stack going. We've got Bijan, we've got Drake London, and Kirk Cousins. So adding one more to the stack here really late, I think makes a lot of sense for us. And Mooney, I think, with the quality of the other weapons, is probably going to be running free a good bit. And Cousins is the kind of quarterback who knows how to take advantage of that.
And we also need to remember, yes, Mooney had those stats, but in 2021 and 2022, he exceeded a 25% target share in both seasons. So he can command those targets, and Darnell Mooney, a downfield threat. I could see Drake London being more of the, playing in the slot a little bit more, rotating in just a little bit, with Mooney trying to stretch the field on the outside a little bit. I know London loves to play, on the outside, 6'4", built for the outside.
Mm-hmm.
But London, in his 2 seasons, a 23% target share and a 29% target share in his rookie year. So, to
a certain extent, I think you have to throw the Arthur Smith years out the window. And just say we don't really know what the ceiling is for him, but he's a prototypical X receiver. So and Mooney is a prototypical Y. So it's a nice marriage there.
Yeah, and Mooney is not going anywhere. He's guaranteed a lot of money by the Atlanta Falcons. So it's going to be Pitts, it's going to be Bijan, it's going to be London, it's going to be Cousins, and Darnell Mooney. Also a late Rondell Moore, if you want to sprinkle in some Rondell Moore, but
let's not get crazy here.
Sprinkling, right? A sprinkle,
Yes. Sprinkle with care.
Sprinkle with care. Yes, take anything away from the best ball streets, it's sprinkle with care.
Yeah, I don't mind Moore as a last round flyer on a lot of builds. I'm not sure, if we want to go to a fifth.
He just lacks he lacks ceiling.
Yeah.
And the manufactured touches limit what he can do in terms of making big plays. If you're manufacturing touches, it's usually because it's close to the line of scrimmage and they're gimmies. Whereas that's why we love Darnell Mooney a lot more. And you should in your fantasy leagues, for a variety of reasons. But Darnell Mooney is the preferred option, clearly over Rondell Moore.
Right. Okay, McCarthy just went, which eliminated a debate in my mind.
See, I like that wide receiver pick. He's supposed to be early day 2, mid day 2, or early round. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind that one. I would like to, if the other player is there when it gets back to us, I think that's probably going to be a good one. But yeah, we can go ahead and take the wide receiver here.
You're pulling on my Notre Dame bias here.
I know, right?
Dad. Now I'm feeling anxious. I've got my Notre Dame polo on tonight, representing the Fighting Irish of the University of Notre Dame out of South Bend, Indiana. Shout out to y'all. But some of y'all don't know this about me. Like, I went there for grad school. That's where I got my master's in education. So, and I worked really hard. I was not accepted to the University of Notre Dame out of high school. So I have my rejection letter. And I have my rejection.
Bradley carrying a grudge there.
I kept my rejection letter, and then I have a frame with my rejection letter from Notre Dame right next to my acceptance letter to Notre Dame. And yes, and I keep it, in my office at school, just as a reminder of, set your eyes on your dreams and you can achieve them. And, that's really something that I want to, just encourage people, like, set your goals, set your dreams. And just because you don't get it the first time, it's okay. Like, continue to work your butt off and you can achieve what you want to. And so, Randall, shout out to you, Rudy, a true Rudy.
Nice.
Fantastic.
That's the best comment of the entire chat so far.
That's great. That's fantastic.
Good job, Randall. Appreciate that one. That's
it.
Great. But yeah, Bradley's exactly right. I mean, failure really is only temporary. If you let it get you down, then that's on you. But when we were little, man, how many times did you fall down before you learned to walk? And we just have to keep that mindset. So,
I skinned my knee so many times trying to ride a bike. Let me tell you, Dan.
Oh, yes.
How much money have I burned in the best ball streets?
Yep.
To learn all the things that.
Yes. Now you've learned the things.
Now we have learned things.
We've learned the things, and we're doing the things.
We are. Look at us drafting a never too early $125 FFPC Bestball team. Dan Williamson, my co-host at Overhyped Sleeper on the X Machine. I'm Bradley Stalder at Djibouti Puns on Twitter. Make sure you guys are smashing the subscribe button on YouTube and also clicking the follow on the Roto Underworld Twitter, the X Machine account. Follow us there. And we'll be bringing you best ball content throughout the whole summer. We'll be here. We'll be talking ADP risers and fallers in the offseason. We'll be talking best ball draft strategy. We're going to have some great guests on throughout. We've already had some amazing guests on so far in Stackhunters, Dan. And I don't know. I've had all of them are my favorites. Last week, if you guys didn't check it out, John Laub came on, and it was so much fun. He brought the energy, and we talked rookies. So if you guys missed out on last week's Stack Hunters, John Laub is a rookie guru, and we can just lock in that running back from the University of Notre Dame, Audric Estime. Dan.
I should have let you click it. I really should have.
No, I'll give the honors. It's my privilege to announce that we have drafted running back Audric Estime in round 17.
Yes. Love it. All right. Yeah, so we have I just want to kind of go back to our two late round quarterback builds. I actually missed one. Team 6 didn't start on quarterback until round 12, so he pushed it even farther than Team 2. But Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, Daniel Jones is his build, and then Jaden Daniels, Deshaun Watson, Will Levis for Team 2. Honestly, I probably like the Jaden Daniels Team 2. I like that quarterback room a little bit better. Yes. However, if May or McCarthy hits, then Team 6 is looking very nice. So, and
McCarthy right now is quarterback 28, Dan.
There's
been some rumblings that, people are going to make him sit, blah, blah, blah. I'm not believing that. I think J.J. McCarthy's going to start right away, and to get him at quarterback 28 is going to be a value.
He's going to go in the top 10 picks for sure, and there's no way you're going to sit a quarterback in the top 10 picks. It happened for Mahomes, and that's the first guy I can think of and the last guy I can think of that was drafted that high that sat for a full year in many, many, many years, like 20 years at least.
Yeah, and then the quarterback there was Alex Smith, so there wasn't the pressure we need to start Mahomes right away. Alex Smith is an admirable quarterback, Pro Bowler, played very well. That's the thing is, the quarterbacks who are already on teams that are drafting in the top 10. I mean, it's Kyler Murray. The Cardinals aren't going to do that. I mean, maybe there was like Mike Tannenbaum doing a mock draft of the Vikings trading their picks to get Kyler Murray, and eventually drafting J.J. McCarthy and blah, blah, blah. I don't believe that's going to happen. I think Kyler's going to stay put.
Yeah, I think Arizona has made it very clear that Kyler's their guy. They have not shown any inkling that they would be willing to trade off him. So,
if there is a wide receiver to move on draft night, Dan, I think it's Brandon Ayuk. There's been a lot of rumblings about the San Francisco 49ers not necessarily wanting to budge on the extension, and there's been Ayuk connected to the Jacksonville Jaguars, especially in light of Calvin Ridley not re-signing. And I think that would be very interesting to get, an early pick for Brandon Ayuk, so we'll see if that's going to be a thing.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think he's probably going to go for more than Marquise Brown went for when he went to Arizona. So, it's possible it could be a late first. I think it's more likely to be like a second second and a third or something like that.
Maybe a first swap like an AJ Brown type.
Yeah, that could be as well. That's also not a bad idea.
Just hindsight. Treylon Burks for AJ Brown, straight up. Lord have mercy.
Yeah, that did not work out so well. So
no, it did not. Yikes.
Well, we'll put it this way: we're in the 18th round, and I'm still having to scroll down a bit to find Treylon Burks. So,
yikes. I don't mind number one. I'm worried that he's hashtag not good.
Right. I don't mind. And that's very possible. He could also end up being Jerome Ford, a guy who also did not get very much run as a rookie at all and ended up as a sophomore just smashing. So, I think the wide receiver is a safe pick. Both of these guys fit with our AFC South stack.
Theme.
So,
yes.
Yeah. So it's your call, Bradley. I think I think we need.
I picked the last running back, so.
Well, I put him on there. So
all right. We'll go with Tank. We'll go with Tank. We got a double tank. We got two tanks. We're ready. Boom, boom, boom. We're ready to go to war in the best ball streets.
That's right.
Got two tanks. Gotta have a little bit of fun,
Right. Exactly. I thought you were picking him, so he ended up being.
Oh, I just let it go to auto draft. That's fine. Tank Dell and Tank Bigsby on the draft. We should rename the draft as the Tank draft. I don't know. I didn't have anything better to come up with.
We'll just call the team Tanks for nothing.
Well done. Thank you. That was excellent.
I'll be here all night. All right. So we've got 2 picks left.
Tanking for Tua.
Tanking for Tua. There we go. Double tank. All right. So one question is, are we happy with our quarterback room, or do we feel a need to add to it?
Well, are there any legit starters left? I don't.
I mean, I think you could make the argument for Penix. I think you can make an argument for Russ Wilson, Minshew,
You think
possibly
Gardner?
even.
I think Minshew is.
But on the other hand, I don't know if we need to. Mahomes and Cousins have been incredibly durable over the years.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean,
I'm not worried
Cousins.
about the Achilles.
Yeah. So I'm okay with just let's just ride with 2 quarterbacks. A little bit of a risk here, but what that's going to do is free us up to take an extra player at one of our other positions.
Yes.
All right.
I'm just throwing some of my favorite players in at this point. We're in the last 2 rounds. It's just get your guy season.
Yes, definitely. I think we're probably, I like number 2 a lot.
Yes, number 2, baby. Let's go.
Okay. This has been almost an auto pick for me in rounds 19 and 20. Justice Hill.
Yes.
I mean,
so much Justice Hill.
Right, exactly. Because Keaton Mitchell, I don't know when he's going to be back. He injured his knee very, very late in the process. Derrick Henry, can catch passes, but they're going to definitely need to spell him. They're going to definitely want to have Hill in like 2-minute situations and things like that. So I think Hill is going to get a decent amount of touches next year unless Baltimore goes out and drafts a day 2 running back. I think,
and they like him. They spoke very highly of him. They called him the unsung hero. It's only him, Justice Hill, and Derrick Henry who are the healthy running backs in this room. So we're getting a team who rushes at one of the highest rates in the NFL, and we're getting the number 2 back. And I don't think Baltimore will put more draft capital into running back, at least significant draft capital, after they sign the big dog. And you have Keaton Mitchell at least in the wings. My concerns are that he is going to take some time to get back from his ACL tear.
Right. Yeah, totally agree. So I think it's a great pick. It fits well with what we have going on. So we have Bijan, Rashad White spearheading the running back room, James Conner. Then we have a couple 3 young guys, really. Blake Corum, Audric Estime, Tank Bigsby, and then Justice Hill to kind of give that veteran presence on the back end. Our wide receiver room, I think, looks pretty good, too. We've got Drake London, Tank Dell, Calvin Ridley, Christian Watson, Dontavian Wicks, Darnell Mooney, Ricky Pearsall. A lot of wide receivers on really good offenses. And we have tight end Dalton Schultz, Hunter Henry, or Chigo Okonkwo. So I think our last pick is probably coming down to, do we want to throw that at wide receiver or do we want to throw that at tight end? And I do like the last player in our queue.
Because he could very much be the starter.
Right.
And was signed very quickly in free agency to a team that let their starting tight end go.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely.
And who's shown some spike weeks in the past on another team.
Right. Yeah. I think he's a great dart throw for a last round. If he wasn't there and we wanted to get a tight end, the one we have at number 4 looks good as well. So we'll be talking about both of those guys when we make our pick. I think we can probably take the running back out because I think we're set at running back.
I put him there so we could talk about him. Blake Watson deserves to be talked about. So this is my Dwayne McBride 2.0, baby. Blake Watson, no matter what, is running back out of Memphis. And other running backs have come out of Memphis. Kenny Gainwell, Tony Pollard. Come on, give me some more, Dan. Antonio Gibson.
Yeah, Gibson. Yeah, that's the other big
three. One. And what kind of running backs those are. They can catch passes out of the backfield. Watson was a good rusher last year. He could catch passes. And, we loved what we saw from him. The problem is he was not invited to the combine, but he crushed his pro day. 4.3 40, great speed, could catch the ball. I think if anything, I think what's best for him is that he doesn't get drafted and then can go to wherever he wants.
Right.
And that would be great. So, put Blake Watson on your last round rotation of running backs. It is April 4th of the 2024, the year of our Lord. And you should be taking Blake Watson.
Yes. All right, should we go with the tight end? I think it's either the tight end or the wide receiver there. And
let's go with the tight end.
Okay. All right.
Yeehaw! Let's go with Will Dissly, baby.
Potentially the starting tight end for the San Diego Chargers, and Jim Harbaugh, who definitely likes to have run a lot of 12 personnel, have two tight ends on the field. So, the other one you could take there is you could take a shot on Hayden Hurst if you like. I kind of like Dissly better, but I think Hayden Hurst has a lot of sneaky value too if you're really, really scraping at tight end. Greg Dortch was the other player that we had in our queue, which was taken by Team 3. And I like the Mr. Irrelevant on this draft, A.T. Perry.
Yes.
I've taken a good amount of A.T. Perry in my drafts as well. So that's a fun pick.
Consider some A.T. Perry in your best ball drafts. Dan, this has been a lot of fun. Let's just give a quick recap for all the people watching at home, watching on their devices, streaming from the toilets, wherever they are watching this draft. We started with Bijan Robinson and then tapped Atlanta again with Drake London. How do you feel in retrospect now about starting at Atlanta?
I like it because I do think it's going to be a good offense. I prefer my early picks to be from good offenses as much as possible. So, really probably the first place where we went away from that was Calvin Ridley with the Tennessee offense. But it should be a lot better than last year's Tennessee offense. So I don't even mind that.
Then we went Rachaad White at RB11. Mahomes at quarterback 3 at the end of the 4th round. Tank Dell, major value. Dell was a beginning of the 4th round type of pick, and now he falls in the mid-5th. Then Calvin Ridley comes back to us at wide receiver 33. James Conner, Christian Watson at wide receiver 43. Very easy for Watson to outperform wide receiver 43. Then we get our first tight end, Dalton Schultz, to correlate with Tank Dell. Then we get our stack with Kirk Cousins. How satisfying was it to take Kirk Cousins to stack with Bijan and Drake London?
Yeah, I was very happy that he fell. When we took Schultz, we were looking at taking Cousins in that spot as well. So for Cousins to make it all the way back around to us and go after Trevor Lawrence, which sometimes he's not anymore. Seems like Lawrence has been falling a little bit more. So I like that a lot, and it just really completes that stack. And with the Mahomes Cousins combo, then it allowed us to just go with 2 quarterbacks.
After Cousins, Blake Corum, a nice little value at running back 42. We like what upside he could possibly offer. We tapped tight end again, tight end 19, Hunter Henry. We've seen Hunter Henry have top 12 seasons, top 10 seasons in the past, and with what we expect to be an improved New England offense, look, it's not going to be Bill Belichick anymore. It couldn't get much worse, could it?
Probably not. And Hunter Henry he's a guy who's always had a nose for the goal line. He's been used in the end zone a lot, and that is a skill at tight end. And he can get loose down the seam from time to time too. So not a bad player to have, especially with New England so far being very, very light on receiving options. Hunter Henry is probably right now, you'd have to say he's probably the number 2 option on the team after Demario Douglas.
Dontavion Wicks, 13th round, wide receiver 59. Then we come back with Chigakonkwo to correlate with Calvin Ridley. Darnell Mooney, a nice wide receiver 69 pick in round 15, also to stack with Atlanta. And then we finished out our wide receiver room with Ricky Pearsall, who projects to get day 2, round 2 even, draft capital. There's been a lot of buzz about Ricky Pearsall. Round 16, I could see him rising a few rounds post NFL draft, given that given the landing spot, given the draft capital. So wide receiver 75 for Ricky Pearsall. How do you feel overall about our wide receiver room now that it's finalized?
I like it. I think it's good. I'm not sure that I'd say wide receiver is the strength of our team. I think running back might be a little bit stronger, but wide receiver is definitely very, very solid for us. With London, Dell, Ridley, Watson, and then the Watson-Wicks combo is really nice, and then the London Mooney combo, and then you got Pearsall for a little bit of youth and upside in there. So I think the wide receiver room really fits well together. It makes sense.
We finished out round 17, 18, 19 with triple tapping running back Audric Estime, product in the University of Notre Dame, Tank Bigsby, and Justice Hill, handcuff season. Will Dissly was our last pick, rounding out the tight end position, tight end 40, probably a pretty good value. Dan, what grade would you give us now that we've seen the draft at its completion?
I think this is probably I'll give it an A- because I do like the fact that we have a lot of correlation going on. Within a couple of divisions, the NFC South and AFC South. That's nice to have. And then we've got a lot of players from really good offenses. And overall, it's a younger team, too. There are a couple exceptions to that, but, we've got a lot of young players who, could still potentially have their best year in front of them. So, I think in a lot of ways, this team fits well together.
Yeah, there's many pathways for multiple players, especially throughout this draft, to hit, and not just return on the draft capital invested, but to significantly provide massive value, spike week opportunities. We mentioned Dontavion Wicks as a possibility there. Christian Watson is always a big play waiting to happen. We saw what Calvin Ridley and Tank Dell were able to do last year. And then the stacking of Bijan, London, Cousins, and Darnell Mooney. This is a chips-in move for Atlanta, and I like it, Dan. I think this is also going to be a very competitive team. And even if you take a couple zeros here and there, I don't think that there's like one linchpin that's going to make this whole team fall apart.
Right, exactly. I mean, because we've got Rashad White as kind of a very, very solid RB2 to an elite RB1. We've got, probably, Drake London going down would probably be the worst case scenario for this team, is what I would say. If that happens, this team is probably going to struggle a little bit more. But we do have Mooney back there who would probably pick up a lot of that slack and be worth a good bit more. So, it's wide receiver is probably the one place where it's the most fragile. Tight end is just, there's nothing I really love about our tight end room, but there's also nothing I really hate about it.
Fair enough. Dan is non-committal. He's agnostic toward our tight end room. That's just how it rolls.
Our tight end room is fine. It's fine, Bradley. Fine.
Dan, fine is the 4-letter F word my wife uses when things are not fine. Okay.
Okay. That's
all
fair
right.
enough. I should take
fair
that
is
to heart.
also a 4-letter F word. Nevertheless, we're derailing here. It's been a lot of fun drafting with y'all here on the FFPC Best Ball Streets. Dan Williamson at Overhyped Sleeper on the X Machine. I'm Bradley Stalder at Djibouti Puns on Twitter. Make sure you smash the subscribe button. Appreciate y'all checking us out on Stackhunters. I will not be here next week. Dan will probably be here next week. We will see. And until next time, Dan.
That's me.
That's it. Until next time, good luck in the Best Ball Streets, everybody.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All-In Package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.